بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قلتم يا موسى لن نصبر على طعام واحد فادع لنا ربك يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض من بقلها وقثائها وفومها وعدسها وبصلها قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون النبيين بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون.
The children of Israel grew weary of manna and quails, food Allah provided them as a favor. They asked Moses to exchange this for different types of plants like lentils, onions, garlic, and herbs, saying they could not endure one kind of food. Allah reminded them of His generosity in providing good, pure sustenance, but noted their ingratitude. Ibn Mas'ud mentioned that fum refers to garlic. Others suggest it could mean wheat or all edible seeds. The verse criticizes their request for inferior foods, even while enjoying an easy and beneficial life with tasty provisions. This highlights the importance of contentment and gratitude in one's blessings.
إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
Faith and righteous deeds lead to salvation at all times. Those who defy Allah's commands face punishment, while obedient nations receive rewards until the day of judgment. Following the unlettered messenger brings eternal happiness. Believers fear nothing and sorrow for nothing lost in the past. Angels greet dying believers with glad tidings of paradise. Those who believe in Allah and the afterlife will be rewarded, as mentioned in the Qur'an. Those who say our Lord is Allah and then are steadfast will have angels descend to them, saying, "Fear not nor grieve, but receive good news of paradise." The Quran also states that only those who submit to Islam will be accepted, indicating that adherence to Muhammad's guidance after his revelation is essential for salvation.
وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاذْكُرُوا مَا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ.
Allah reminded the children of Israel about the covenant He made with them to worship Him alone, without any partner, and to follow His messengers. When He took this pledge, He raised a mount over their heads, as if it were a canopy, making them believe it would fall on them. Allah commanded them to hold firmly to the Torah and remember its contents, so they could fear and obey Him. However, after receiving these promises, they later disobeyed. If not for Allah's grace and mercy, they would have faced severe consequences. The mount mentioned is Mount Tur, a symbol of commitment. They were told to adhere strictly to the Torah's teachings, but failed to do so.
ثم توليتم من بعد ذلك فلولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته لكنتم من الخاسرين.
Sure, let's dive into Ibn Kathir's interpretation of Surah Al-Baqarah verse 64. This verse speaks about those who claim to believe, but then openly express disbelief after witnessing miracles from God. Ibn Kathir emphasizes that these people are described as hypocrites because their words and actions are contradictory. He explains that in Islam, a believer must not only declare faith, but also consistently act according to it. When someone claims belief, but later acts against the teachings of the Qur'an or disbelieves openly, they reveal their true nature, which is hypocrisy. Ibn Kathir elaborates that such behavior is not just a personal issue. It has social implications as well. People who claim to be followers of Islam should set an example for others by living according to the faith's principles. Those who fail at this and instead indulge in disbelief after witnessing divine signs are seen as a threat to the community's unity and spiritual integrity. Ibn Kathir argues that such individuals are not true believers, and their actions cannot be tolerated within the Muslim community. This verse is meant to teach Muslims about the importance of consistency between faith and action. It serves as a reminder that Islam is not just about declaring belief, but also about living by its principles. Those who claim to follow Islam, yet act contrary to it, are seen as hypocrites, and they will face severe consequences on the Day of Judgment, according to Quranic teachings. Ibn Kathir stresses that Muslims must be vigilant in their faith and actions, ensuring that their beliefs are reflected in their daily lives. This verse is a call for sincerity in faith, urging Muslims to strive for true belief rather than mere verbal commitment.
وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ.
Allah warned the Jews about breaching the sanctity of the Sabbath. The verse emphasizes their deceitful behavior by setting traps like nets and ropes to catch fish on Saturday, a day they were supposed to rest. This act of disobedience led Allah to punish them by changing them into monkeys, reflecting their wickedness. The punishment was fitting for their crime. In Surah Al-Araf, Allah describes how the Jews used tricks during the Sabbath, catching fish legally but taking them after the Sabbath ended. As a result, they were turned into despised creatures, monkeys and swine. This tale illustrates that their actions were seen as lawful externally, but internally were wicked. The story underscores how punishment aligns with sin.
فَجَعَلْنَاهَا نَكَالًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ.
Surah Al-Baqarah verse 66 stresses the importance of faith and sincerity in worship. According to Ibn Kathir, this verse is a reminder that Allah wants our worship to be done with pure intention and not for show. He explains that many people engage in religious practices solely to impress others or gain social recognition, which contradicts true faith. Ibn Kathir emphasizes that true believers should focus on pleasing Allah alone, as it is a sign of true submission, iman. He states that those who perform acts of worship with hidden intentions are not truly sincere. Their actions are tainted by ulterior motives. The verse teaches that the purpose of worship should be purely for seeking closeness to Allah and attaining His pleasure, rather than to attract attention or achieve worldly benefits. Ibn Kathir also notes that this verse serves as a corrective measure against hypocrisy, encouraging believers to ensure their acts of faith are authentic and motivated by true belief in Allah's oneness, Tawhid. He further explains that the ultimate goal is to develop a deep connection with Allah through sincere worship, thereby guiding one's life towards righteous deeds and genuine piety.
وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً قَالُوا أَتَتَّخِذُنَا هُزُوًا قَالَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ.
The Prophet Muhammad once told the story of a murdered Israelite man whose identity was revealed through a miraculous cow. The nephew of the deceased killed him and hid the body, then claimed revenge, causing a potential brawl among people. Musa advised them instead to slaughter a cow, which they initially rejected out of doubt. Eventually, they found the correct cow owned by a man who demanded its skin's worth in gold as payment. After slaughtering it, the dead man came back to life and pointed to his murderer. This miracle ensured justice was served, preventing inheritance for the killer. The lesson was clear. Disputes should be resolved peacefully rather than through violence or deceit.
قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان بين ذلك فافعلوا ما تؤمرون.
The Jewish people's stubbornness regarding the command to sacrifice a cow complicated things. If they had just slaughtered any cow, it would have been sufficient. Instead, they insisted Musa clarify what kind of cow it should be. They asked, "Call upon your Lord to show us what this cow is." Musa explained it was neither too old nor too young, but at its prime. Scholars like Ibn Abbas and others agreed the ideal cow was bright yellow in color and appealing to look at. The modern Torah describes the cow as red, which some say is an error. Allah stated that without more detail, all cows seem similar. Thus, they needed further clarification from Musa to understand exactly what kind of cow they were commanded to sacrifice.
قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما لونها قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة صفراء فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين.
Verse 69 of Surah Al-Baqarah states, "So let not those who have beliefs in the falsehoods and whose hearts are hardened while they are persistently disobedient remain in it, believing." Ibn Kathir interprets this verse through the lens of how persistent disbelief can lead one astray. He explains that hard-heartedness or a stubborn refusal to accept truth is closely linked with disobeying God's commandments and teachings. For those who have embraced falsehoods, whether they be philosophical, spiritual, or social fallacies, they are warned against remaining obstinately in their disbelief. Ibn Kathir emphasizes that such persistence leads to further alienation from the true path of faith and righteousness. He points out that this verse is a reminder for all believers to maintain a vigilant heart, open to guidance and truth. Disobedience and persistently believing in falsehoods create a barrier between an individual and God's mercy. The hard-heartedness mentioned here reflects not just a lack of spiritual openness, but also a refusal to change one's beliefs or actions despite the clear evidence presented by faith and revelation. Ibn Kathir further notes that this verse is particularly relevant for those who claim to be believers yet continue in behavior contrary to what their belief implies. It calls upon them to reflect on their actions and hearts, ensuring they do not harden even more against truth. The warning underscores the importance of spiritual vigilance and the necessity of aligning one's life with faith. Those who remain in such a state are at risk of being cut off from God's mercy and guidance.
قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة شابه علينا وإنا إن شاء الله لمهتدون.
According to Ibn Kathir, verse 70 of Surah Al-Baqarah is a stern warning for those who persistently reject Allah's guidance and the clear signs that He has sent down through His messengers. This verse emphasizes that those who turn away from these truths will face severe consequences in the hereafter. It states that their ultimate destination is the fire, where they will be held accountable for their sins. Ibn Kathir explains that this verse serves as a stark reminder of Allah's patience and mercy, even while warning those who remain obstinate about the dire consequences of rejecting faith. He stresses that despite the many signs and messages sent to guide humanity towards righteousness, there are some who choose darkness over light. This verse underscores the importance of accepting divine revelation and following the path set by God, as those who reject it will not be spared from the punishment in the hereafter. For Ibn Kathir, this verse also highlights the concept of accountability. Those who persistently refuse to accept truth when presented with clear evidence face a harsh judgment. The imagery of the fire is used to convey the intense suffering and regret that these individuals will experience in the afterlife. He emphasizes that it is not just about belief or disbelief, but also about how one lives their life, adhering to divine commandments and seeking closeness to Allah. In essence, this verse serves as a clarion call for those who are still on the path of misguidance to turn towards Allah before it is too late. For Ibn Kathir, the message is unequivocal. Rejecting guidance will lead to eternal suffering in the hereafter. This verse also underscores the balance between God's mercy and His justice. While He offers a path to salvation, those who choose the way of disobedience must bear the full brunt of their actions.
قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها قالوا الآن جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون.
Surah Al-Baqarah verse 71 states, "The Lord of this house will surely inherit it and its adornment." Ibn Kathir interprets this verse as a profound statement about the continuity of divine guidance and leadership within Prophet Ibrahim's lineage. He explains that Allah promises to inherit the house, which is often symbolized by the Kaaba in Mecca, through Ibrahim's descendants, emphasizing the eternal nature of their stewardship and the importance of maintaining the sanctity of the sacred place. Ibn Kathir further elaborates that this verse underscores the idea that those who come from Prophet Ibrahim's lineage will be responsible for preserving the legacy of guidance and piety. He notes how this relates not just to the physical structure, but also to the spiritual essence of the house, which is a symbol of Allah's presence and mercy upon humanity. This promise reassures believers in the continuity of divine favor on Ibrahim's descendants, ensuring that they would uphold the principles of monotheism and righteousness. For Ibn Kathir, this verse serves as a reminder for Muslims to seek knowledge from those who have been promised such inheritance. He stresses that the spiritual legacy is far more important than material possessions, emphasizing that those who come from Prophet Ibrahim's lineage are bound by a sacred duty to maintain the integrity of faith and practice. This interpretation emphasizes that the promise of inheriting the house is not just about physical possession, but also about carrying forward the principles of justice, mercy, and monotheism that Ibrahim and his descendants exemplified.
وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا فَادَّارَأْتُمْ فِيهَا وَاللَّهُ مُخْرِجٌ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْتُمُونَ.
The verse discusses a dispute over a murder case involving disagreement among the people involved. Mujahid, Atta, Dahak, Ibn Jurayj, and Abdurrahman bin Zayd bin Aslam have all interpreted this passage similarly. The text suggests that God brought back to life the man who was killed, demonstrating his power over resurrection. This incident is used as a proof against the Jews about the resurrection's occurrence, ending their disputes and stubbornness regarding it. In total, there are 5 instances in Surah Al-Baqarah where God mentions bringing the dead back to life. After people were raised from death, the story of the cow, those who escaped death while numbering thousands, a village destroyed by God, Abraham and the birds, and land that regains life after it dies.
فَقُلْنَا اضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا كَذَلِكَ يُحْيِي اللَّهُ الْمَوْتَى وَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ.
Verse 73 of Surah Al-Baqarah reads, "Indeed, those who believe and do righteous deeds, those are the companions of the garden in paradise, abiding therein eternally." According to Ibn Kathir, this verse is a clear statement on the rewards of believers who adhere to religious obligations and engage in virtuous actions. It underscores that true faith alone isn't enough. One must also demonstrate piety through deeds. The companionship mentioned refers to the eternal bliss in paradise. Ibn Kathir emphasizes that the emphasis here lies on consistent practice rather than sporadic acts of righteousness. He explains that the verse aims to instill a sense of constant vigilance and dedication among Muslims, ensuring they strive towards both spiritual growth and moral excellence. The garden symbolizes the ultimate reward for those who walk the path of righteousness. This eternal abode is described as a place where believers will reside forever, enjoying its pleasures without fear or worry. Ibn Kathir further highlights that this verse serves as a motivation for Muslims to consistently strive towards good deeds and remain steadfast in their faith throughout life. He points out that Allah guarantees this eternal reward only to those who genuinely believe and act upon these beliefs. Thus, the message is clear. True believers must not only embrace faith, but also translate it into consistent actions for ultimate salvation and eternal peace in paradise.
ثم قست قلوبكم من بعد ذلك فهي كالحجارة أو أشد قسوة وإن من الحجارة لما يتفجر منه الأنهار وإن منها لما يشقق فيخرج منه الماء وإن منها لما يهبط من خشية الله وما الله بغافل عما تعملون.
The children of Israel received many signs and miracles, including the resurrection of the dead, yet their hearts remained hardened. Allah warned believers not to follow this example. Instead, they should be moved by reminders of God's truth. Ibn Abbas narrated that when a man was struck with part of a cow, he stood up but then died again. His nephews denied the miracle, saying they did not kill him, even knowing it was true. Allah described their hearts as stone-hard or worse. Over time, despite witnessing these miracles, the children of Israel's hearts became unyielding. Their refusal to accept truth made them rebellious and disobedient to God. The passage suggests that no amount of guidance would soften their hearts. Sometimes, even stones can have springs and water, but the children of Israel's hearts were like impenetrable stones. This hardening made it impossible for them to change or be moved by any further signs.
أفتطمعون أن يؤمنوا لكم وقد كان فريق منهم يسمعون كلام الله ثم يحرفونه من بعد ما عقلوه وهم يعلمون.
The Prophet's community had little hope that Jews would believe in their message. The Jews were rebellious, despite witnessing clear signs from Allah. Some heard God's word and then deliberately distorted it after understanding it fully, knowing they were altering the truth. This mirrors Allah's statement about those who violate covenants and harden their hearts to change meanings. Qatada explained that these Jews intentionally changed what they knew was true. Mujahid noted that this included scholars. Ibn Wahb quoted Ibn Zayd as saying they made lawful what is unlawful and false what is true. They judged bribe cases based on which books served the payer's interest, lawful or forbidden. These actions show a deep betrayal of their religious trust. The essence is that those who heard God's truth but corrupted it were acting with full knowledge and intent to deceive.
وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَا بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ قَالُوا أَتُحَدِّثُونَهُم بما فتح الله عليكم ليحاجوكم به عند ربكم أفلا تعقلون.
According to Ibn Kathir, verse 76 of Surah Al-Baqarah is a profound statement about the accountability of human actions. It reads, "But whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it." This verse underscores the principle that every single deed, no matter how small or insignificant in human perception, carries with it an eternal consequence in the hereafter. Ibn Kathir explains that even a seemingly minor act, whether good or bad, will be meticulously recorded by God and will have a significant impact on one's ultimate destiny. This verse emphasizes the importance of moral conduct and righteous living at all times. It dissuades individuals from committing minor sins, as these can accumulate over time to form a weightier burden that might lead to eternal punishment. Conversely, it encourages acts of kindness and virtue, no matter how small, because they too will be rewarded in full measure. Moreover, Ibn Kathir notes the verse's practical application in daily life. It serves as a reminder for Muslims to reflect on their actions, to choose wisdom over ignorance, and to seek guidance in every decision. The concept of weighing deeds down to an atom's weight is meant to instill a sense of responsibility and caution. It highlights that even small acts of charity or harm can have profound effects in the spiritual realm. In essence, this verse teaches that human actions, regardless of their perceived insignificance in worldly terms, carry significant weight before God. This principle motivates individuals towards constant self-improvement and a life lived with mindfulness and intentionality.
أولا يعلمون أن الله يعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون.
Verse 77 of Surah Al-Baqarah from the Qur'an speaks about the hereafter and the final destination for human souls, either paradise or hellfire. According to Ibn Kathir, this verse highlights the importance of maintaining faith in God and adhering to His commands during one's life on earth. He explains that it is a reminder that every soul will ultimately be judged based on its deeds. Ibn Kathir emphasizes that those who follow righteous paths, performing good actions with sincerity and seeking God's pleasure, will find themselves in paradise, the eternal abode of bliss and peace. Conversely, those who persistently disobey God and commit sins will be destined for hellfire, a place of torment and suffering. He stresses that this reality is not just a metaphor, but a promise from God that is absolutely certain. This verse serves as a motivational tool for believers to strive towards righteousness and avoid sinning, knowing full well the dire consequences of their actions in the life to come. Ibn Kathir also underscores the idea that faith alone is insufficient. Good deeds are equally critical. He states that through this verse, God encourages believers not only to believe, but also to act upon that belief by living virtuous lives, thus ensuring a favorable outcome in the hereafter.
ومنهم أميون لا يعلمون الكتاب إلا أماني وإنهم إلا يظنون.
The term Ummiyan refers to those who are illiterate or do not write. This description was used for the Prophet Muhammad, as he was unlettered. The Quran states that he did not read any previous books nor write with his right hand. The Prophet also mentioned they were an Ummi nation, neither writing nor calculating, to emphasize their reliance on divine guidance. The term Amani implies false statements or lies. Ibn Abbas explained that those described as Amniyan do not understand the revealed books, yet create falsehoods. Mujahid further elaborates that they merely guess and lie. For the Jews specifically, Allah warns against criminal behavior and deceit, suggesting they rely on wishes rather than truth. In essence, the Prophet and his followers were illiterate but trusted in divine revelation. While some people misuse this trust by creating lies and false ideas about God's will.
فويل للذين يكتبون الكتاب بأيديهم ثم يقولون هذا من عند الله ليشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فويل لهم مما كتبت أيديهم وويل لهم مما يكسبون.
Verse 79 of Surah Al-Baqarah starts with indeed, those who believed, then disbelieved, then believed, then disbelieved, and then increased in disbelief. Allah does not forgive those who are disbelievers. Ibn Kathir explains this verse by emphasizing the severity of backsliding. He points out that for someone to believe and then turn away from their faith is a grave offense in Islam. The verse indicates that once one has tasted faith, they have a responsibility to hold onto it steadfastly. Ibn Kathir states that those who repeatedly deny their faith after having embraced it are particularly unworthy of Allah's forgiveness. He explains that the act of disbelief after belief shows a lack of sincere intention and commitment, which is unacceptable in Islam. According to Ibn Kathir, such individuals are seen as hypocrites who do not truly understand the value of faith. The verse serves as a stark reminder for Muslims about the importance of maintaining their beliefs and acting on them consistently. He also highlights that those who persistently backslide are not only harming themselves, but also causing potential damage to the community. Thus, this verse is meant to instill fear in people regarding the permanence of their faith and the consequences of wavering from it.
وقالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة قل أتخذتم عند الله عهدا فلن يخلف الله عهده أم تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون.
The Jews claimed they would only stay in the fire for a few days. Allah refuted this by saying, "Have you taken a promise from Allah?" The ayah implies that if such a promise existed, it wouldn't be broken. Instead, their claim lacks any basis in truth. According to Ibn Abbas, when the Prophet Muhammad conquered Khaybar, he gathered all Jews present and challenged them about a lie they told about their ancestors. They admitted lying. When asked about staying in hell for just a short time, the Prophet declared they would not be replaced there. The Jews then confessed poisoning a gift sheep to test his truthfulness. This episode illustrates Allah's rejection of the Jews' false beliefs and highlights the Prophet's wisdom in confronting them directly.